Yes. Hey, Eric.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not bad. Just saw an awesome movie called The Passenger.
Nice.
Um, so
Like
I'm here
just
with.
this morning? Did you just watch it this morning?
No, I watched it a couple days
Okay.
ago.
Okay.
It's called Gallner, and I'll watch anything he's in. And
Yeah, right.
actually, what I did just watch this morning was real quick. Here with Carter Smith, the director of The Passenger. But what I did just watch this morning was Bug Crush, and
Oh,
there
nice.
the two movies, both Bug Crush and Passenger, have kind of a lot of similar DNA to them. Of a
Yeah,
person
they
that
kind of,
kind of at first like coming off like I'm your friend, and then as it goes on, it's like maybe you're not your friend.
yeah, or like friendship is complicated.
Yeah,
It's like it's very complicated.
but so with you're a writer and director, but some of the stuff you directed, including The Passenger, you didn't write.
Right. Yeah.
But with similar themes between this and Bug Crush, is that just something that when you read a script, that's what turns you on to it and gets you excited about it, or what goes through your mind of I'm going to direct the thing I wrote versus no, I like this other script, I want to
Yeah.
direct this instead.
What I came to. I mean, I've always written stuff, um, but I'm under no like illusion that I'm like the best writer ever. So I'm always open. Like I'm always reading stuff as well, and I think that you know you write or I write stuff out of necessity. Like I write to tell the stories that I'm not finding anyplace else. Um, and then every once in a while, you get a script that comes across that is, kind of knocks your socks off and has, like, with The Passenger in particular, like, it just had this really interesting, complicated friendship at the core of it. Um, and it was this relationship that kind of, it shouldn't be as sort of good as it ends up being, if that meant like like you sort of don't expect to have these moments of like tenderness and sort of real you know intimate friendship between these two guys that are like in facing horrific circumstances. And so that was always something that I found really interesting about it, and in this script particularly, like that was the core of the film and the story.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about this movie, and with indie movies, I don't see a lot of this, and so it's kind of refreshing here. Is typically in an indie movie, you'll have the big opening where something crazy happens, and then it's like 20 minutes of boring air quote character
Yeah.
development until they get to the story. This doesn't do this. That this kind of starts off interesting and then just kind of builds and builds and builds and builds all the way up until the end. Oh,
Oh,
is that
good.
it?
I'm glad you think so.
Is that something that kind of that draws you into a script like this, or
Yeah, I mean, especially with a character, because this is, I mean, it's not really an action movie. It's not really a horror movie. Like it's, there are elements of a lot of different genres, but at the end of the day, like it's about this core relationship. And so, I mean, I think at the beginning of the film, we really worked hard to make sure that things moved quickly, um, and that everything that was happening on the screen was there for a reason, and we didn't have more than we needed. um, Once things sort of kick into gear and sort of things get thrown off kilter, like then we sort of took the time to let some of the stuff play out a little more slowly, because it felt like there was the opportunity to kind of take the quiet moments and watch this sort of awkward silences unfold between these guys.
yeah? And also, this is Blumhouse Television.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is not going in theaters, which is unfortunate. But what's the idea behind the Blumhouse Television? How did this project make it there?
Yeah, well, I mean, they develop a bunch. They have, Blumhouse Television works, and does movies sort of in these groups, these slates. In a lot of ways, it's a television model because we all the films shot in New Orleans. We utilize a lot of the same production heads and the same production offices. And even though they're standalone films, you sort of share a lot of the same behind the scenes and below the line crew that like you would on a TV show. And since they're going to streaming, like will be going to MGM Plus. Like, they're sort of, they sort of develop this. I think ours was 8 movies in total that all kind of, they don't necessarily have anything to do with each other thematically or even, tonally necessarily, but they sort of they give each director a sort of ability to tell that story the way that they want to tell it, which I think is really interesting. Like, you're not sort of stepping into an already established tone and set up like you might be on an episodic TV show. This is very much like this is a standalone piece, which is always interesting and fun as a director.
Yeah. And also, I saw you used to be a fashion photographer. My friend Aaron Graves, he makes dresses, and he like dresses up the mannequins and takes pictures. They're amazing to look at. How's doing the fashion photography? I imagine that had to have helped you with your filmmaking career, because they're kind of there's a lot of crossover between the two.
Yeah, they're related. I mean, I think that the big thing about shooting fashion was sort of with photography, you're really trying to tell a story in one individual frame, and so you're focusing on every single thing that's in that frame, from the height of the heel on the shoe to the color of the jacket to the way the hair looks and the way that what's on the table beside the model. Like, everything in the frame is something that you spend a lot of time thinking about, and that's a skill that comes in really handy when you're filmmaking, because oftentimes there's things that you can do to make the audience feel the way you want them to feel without them even realizing it. Whether it's a color palette or it's wardrobe or it's hair. Like, there's a real it's really fun to play with that stuff, in a way that I think that I became very used to working with shooting fashion for so long.
Yeah, Kyle Gallner's green fuzzy coat thing he was wearing. That had to have been one of your instincts to put in this, because I think in a movie like this, anyone else like probably would have just wore a black t-shirt like I am, or like leather jacket or something. So it kind of adds a little extra flavor to it.
Yeah, it was very much, we created that from scratch. Like, I specifically was like, okay, I want like a weird fuzzy sort of early 90s Kurt Cobain type, sweater and we, and Yulin, the costume designer, like, she custom dyed them that color. Like, we tried a bunch of different colors until we landed on the exact shade of that weird green. So yeah, that was very much like, something that it was definitely a choice to not just do like a trench coat and a black t-shirt, which would be the go-to for someone like that in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and also you mentioned a little bit of the production, but what was like the amount of days you had to shoot? And you had some really cool locations: the mom's house, the quick shop that it starts at, and I'm guessing those are regular locations, or how much of those were sets?
Yeah, we shot in New Orleans and around New Orleans, and so a lot of those places are actually sort of on the outskirts of New Orleans, and there's great locations. There's no shortage of like sad looking gas stations or abandoned malls or stuff that kind of fit with this story perfectly. The burger place was actually not a burger place. That was a general store that we converted into a burger place, and so that whole thing, the orange and the tan, like that was all a creation. And that place was chosen as much for the outside and where it was and how remote it was as what we could do with the inside.
All right. Well, I kind of want to wrap this up a little early, because I do have a spoiler question I want to ask after this.
Okay.
But the question we ask everyone is, we have a what's in the box segment, where people put in movies that they like in the box that are underseen. I mean, I would put Bug Crush there for anyone who hasn't seen it. But what's the movie that you like that you're like, God, I wish more people would watch this because it's such a good movie and no one talks about it?
I mean, I'm all like, I've spent the last year talking about the Outwaters, but I
Oh,
feel like now people have like maybe that's not an underseen movie anymore because I feel like people have really seen it. But so I love that movie. I've kind of been really into this whole sort of new wave of found footage thing, like the horror in the high desert um film. Like I really enjoyed, which I don't know if you've seen that one, but there's two of them actually, and the first one really took me by surprise. But
the
yeah, I'm
the which one?
it's called Horror in the High Desert.
Oh, I have not. I have not.
Oh, check it out.
Sweet. We'll put that in the box. And by the way, the Outwaters director, I don't know if you've seen it.
Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie Banfitch, is that right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's got a. Have you seen his YouTube channel? It's pretty freaking awesome.
I haven't. I've seen the other short films that he did, like the Card Zero and the sort of supplemental. I didn't even know he had a YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's got one where he talks with I think it's his grandma or something. He just asks her a bunch of
Oh,
inappropriate questions, and she just kind of answers them like just earnestly, and it's pretty good.
that makes sense. Knowing Robbie, I've got to know him a little bit this last year, and that all makes sense.
Well, Carter, thank you for joining me. And
Yeah.
yeah, The Passenger comes out on digital on demand August 4th and coming later on MGM Plus in 2023. Thank you very much.
Yes.